Quickly before we get going, I'm giving away another Chipotle gift card. For your chance to win it, make sure you're subscribed and leave a comment below. Winners are announced next week. Alright, let's continue. Bungie can ban you for playing PvP. No hacks, slurs, or exploit abuse required. All you need to do is frequently back out of matches. This makes sense to me. If you are constantly causing others to have a worse time, if you are a constant negative to the larger population, then a ban seems warranted. This is an extreme case of consistent poor behavior that requires ill intentions to reproduce. But does playing Crucible casually seem like a reason to catch a penalty? It's no secret that Destiny isn't doing well. The population is taking steep declines across the board. Major news of layoffs and lack of updates has all but destroyed morale, and Warframe is cleaning up the scraps of players left behind. But of all the areas of play, nothing has taken a sharper dive than the Crucible. This is not a video about PvP, not in the normal sense. This video will not discuss weapon balance, or map updates, or even Trials of Osiris, or anything of the sort. This video seeks to examine the failure that is the current Destiny 2 PvP experience and figure out why some love it, lots hate it, and what needs to be done from a top-down perspective to fix it, ranging everywhere from loot incentives, special ammo systems, game modes, and even Bungie-hosted tournaments. In other words, we'll be discussing what it would take for Crucible to be the experience that players always wanted it to be. Bungie's current-day philosophy for addressing problems in Crucible demonstrates their philosophy and their failures for the mode overall, and no other topic best epitomizes this than the quitter penalty. Recently, Crucible faces a major problem, and in early 2024, Bungie sought to fix that problem. The issue was that players were backing out of quick play matches often. The solution was simple: punish players for exhibiting this bad behavior by suspending frequent quitters in the casual playlist. Bungie has tried this in the past, but this time it was supposed to be different. This time around, players would be looked at over a longer period and then judged according to how frequently this habit showed itself. If a player rarely backed out, typically because of connection issues or real-life interruptions, one quit shouldn't cause a suspension. But if the player backed out around 20% of their matches, they were liable to catch a suspension from anywhere from 5 minutes to hours, depending on frequency. So how well has this system worked? Let's look at the population statistics. While Destiny may be declining overall, compared to drops in other areas, the Crucible's drop rate is the sharpest at 66%. Crucible's lopsided prismatic hunter meta certainly hasn't helped. It isn't coincidence that this decline coincides directly with the implementation of the quitter penalty. But everyone suffers when players quit, and this penalty seems like a fair and just way to discourage this behavior, right? Psychology disagrees. Numerous studies examining how we as humans respond to rewards and penalties consistently agree that while a punishment will create a desired result in the short term, rewards are far more effective at generating the desired behavior in long term. Think about it from the player's perspective. There are a number of reasons a player may quit: unfun or unfair match, poor connection quality, real-life interruptions, a friend just got on and you want to team up, the map isn't what you wanted, and so on. If a well-behaved player quits, they are met with this pop-up, warning them about their impact they had on the match that they just left and threatening further action if they make it a habit. While this may make a bad actor fearful of consequences, does this feel good for either the good or the bad player? Does this enhance either player's experience, or does it make it worse? If a quitter penalty suspension is applied, does this make the player want to engage with the Crucible more or less? But this penalty isn't made for the player quitting, right? It's for the benefit of the players who had their teammate leave. Unfortunately, many of the reasons a player might quit is outside of their control and thus will happen anyway, doing nothing to stop the behavior for the valid reasons. Even still, if a player does quit by choice alone, maybe because they aren't having fun, does threatening them with a potential bigger bad feeling create a positive experience for them? Or do they just start resenting the system and the ones that enforce it? At what point does a player just decide they shouldn't even engage? According to our statistics, less than a month. This lack of foresight and band-aid solutions to problems is exactly what burdens modern-day Crucible. So many of Crucible's under-the-hood problems work exactly like this. It's why so many of you watching at home despise the mode and will only interact with it for loot or bounties and then avoid it like the plague for the rest of the week. Even though it sounds stupidly simple and painfully obvious to say, if you loved Crucible, you would play Crucible. So, what if Bungie tried to address changes to Crucible not from the philosophy on insisting what it already is and should be, but on building towards something that more want to engage with? Something that could attract casuals and encourage hardcores alike. What'd that look like? If Bungie wants players to engage with PvP, they need to start by making playing it worth the player's time. Being that I seem obsessed with it, let's start with this quitter penalty. Call of Duty, for all its flaws, has a fairly solid system for keeping players engaged in games. And being that it has built its entire empire on mostly the back of its multiplayer PvP, it's worth copying their hallmark, or at least looking at it. Instead of adding punishments for bad behavior, they withhold rewards. COD grants players who complete matches bonus XP and other rewards. These rewards are chunky too, so by quitting, you're missing out on all of that potential reward as opposed to earning a potential penalty. Destiny has end match rewards as well, but a massive difference between the two of these companies is communication. COD will tell you before committing to the quit what you will be losing, reminding even the most seasons of vets that they could be missing out on something, even if it's just a notch on their statistics. For Destiny, nothing. No communication, no FOMO, nothing. The player has no immediate idea what they might have missed out on unless they remember before or after the fact. From this analysis, we can see 7 steps that can fix Crucible's core, abstract, top-down problems to make an experience that more want to engage with. Step 1, incentivize match completions. Something as simple as a confirmation pop-up after requesting to go to orbit, showing a small list of everything the player could be missing out on, probably would suffice. Bungie already weaponizes FOMO, so why not do it where it matters? And of course, remove the quitter penalty for casual game modes for every reason I've listed so far. Step 2, joining a losing game in progress feels terrible. But in COD, a pop-up tells you that this loss will be protected from impacting your stats if you stick it out. Communication here is king, but I believe Destiny should go a step further. Destiny has far more systems clashing with one another, and frankly, it's just a bit of a bigger game. And the biggest reason a joining game in progress feels so bad in Destiny is that Destiny has a more consistent snowball effect. If you join a match 5 minutes in, you're missing out on, at minimum, 5 minutes worth of super energy, a major reason for why some games are won. Inform players that if they join a match in progress, they won't be negatively impacted, and then grant players super energy based off how late into the match they join. If you are 3 minutes in, give the player 3 minutes worth of super energy. The player still will be behind, but no longer impossibly so. Similarly, step 3, spawn heavy ammo closer to the spawn points of teams that are losing by a wide enough of a margin. Maps already are programmed to have several possible spawn locations, but currently always spawn in the center of the map for 95% of all game modes. Do you know what teams who are dominating the match have control of by definition? The middle of the freaking map. While this may feel good in those tighter matches to wrestle for control of, when you're already getting obliterated, it just feels like Bungie themselves are joining in on your bullying session. If a team is losing by anywhere from 30 to 40 points, spawn the heavy near that team. Give them a chance to reset that snowball. The mercy rule isn't enough. Step 4, already mentioned, but address why players are leaving rather than addressing the leaving itself. Bungie's approach to attacking the symptoms rather than the problems is like giving you a vomit bucket rather than correctly cooking the food. We have already addressed the lopsided matches by incentivizing match completions. We have addressed joining in progress by mitigating the winning team's snowball and removing negative impact. Now, let's give players less of a reason to leave because of a disliked map. For years, Destiny's PvP system has been massively lagging behind industry standard. And Destiny You load into a match and then learn what you are playing. Were you trying to test out a long-range build but got a close-range map? Too bad. Here's a suspension for leaving. At the bare minimum, show what map you and the lobby are loading into before the match starts. But if Bungie really wanted to address this problem, add map voting. Give players a choice between 2 maps and a random map, and then lock out a map from being voted on after 2 consecutive plays to avoid getting nothing but 1 or a handful of maps for the rest of time. This at least gives players the opportunity, if they're looking for a specific map, to bail out before it massively impacts the rest of the players' experiences. While we're at it, step 5. Let players queue for as many modes as they want. Another area Bungie is laughably behind the times on. Every other modern game from big to small will let you select what game mode you want to queue for, then throw you into whatever modes that creates a lobby first. For 10 years, we have only ever been given a choice between Control, Competitive, Trials, and Rumble. No wonder Crucible feels stale. Even if you don't like Rift, you may not hate it if you get it every 10 games or so, just to shake things up for yourself. This would also massively improve matchmaking times, as you can effectively queue for dozens of matches all at once. Step 6. Provide better rewards for better players. Crucible is already a sweat fest, but with skill-based matchmaking being in the majority of modes, casual players rarely interact with these more skilled and try-hard players. But unfortunately, as you continue to improve, the only reward you get is an emblem and sweatier matches. If players at the upper echelon were rewarded for actually improving, then players would be more invested in improving and sticking it out in those rougher matches. There could be many ways to adjust this, so here are a few. Bungie could give more crafted weapon experience or progress depending on your elo. Bungie could give players in the top 1,000 a special aura like Trials of the 9 back in the day. Bungie could give players special shaders and transmogs to players who have a certain win streak. Bungie could let players buy Artifice armor for an obscene amount of Crucible engrams. Bungie could let players of a certain skill bracket the chance of joining a Bungie-hosted tournament for something simple like $1,000. Personally, I think a more official PvP-hosted tournament scene by Bungie would do wonders for player engagement and community sentiment. I don't think creators like Grenade or Jake should be the only one hosting these types of events, personally. Step 7, this is purely for posterity's sake, continue to go after cheaters. Whether via hardware cheats like Zim or software cheats, continue to make this a priority. Anti-cheat is an arms race. Don't stop seeking improvement. In fact, reward players who have a high consistency in reporting cheaters accurately with a bit of bright dust. This will incentivize players to be communicative and to help mitigate the problem more frequently. While all these changes would immediately improve Crucible's main framework, there are yet still many more gameplay-sided reasons the Crucible is having struggles. To Bungie's credit, they have tried larger, more bold strategies with PvP and special ammo updates with the Checkmate update. Love it or hate it, effort is what matters here. Bungie has shown a willingness to try these more sweeping changes, but I feel as though they could go further. There are 4 major areas that Bungie should continue to experiment with. You all like lists, right? Okay, good. Number 1, game modes. Many of the latest game modes added to PvP have been tolerated at best and downright hated at worst. The only modes that seem to stick at all are the modes that are basically just clash with extra steps. Control, Collision, Rumble, Showdown, Supremacy, Zone Control, and so on. If we're going to play a team deathmatch-like mode, actually shake up how players engage with the game. Hardware is a great example of this. I believe that if we had a way to queue for this mode every single day, it would become many players' mainstay mode. It's a great example of how a different TDM-style experience can be implemented. But here are a few other suggestions. Extinction. Clash, but with a Battle Royale-style closing Vex wall of death that deals heavy damage to players within it. A zone spawns somewhere on the opposite side of this wall, and whoever controls that has the ability to respawn teammates. This happens in waves. The first team to win 3 waves takes the victory. Attrition. Imagine Trials and TDM had a baby. 20 shared lives, 2 rounds. This puts a greater emphasis on playing your life, but will open up those clutch hero moments when lives get low that Trials is famous for. Payload. Rift mechanics, but the player that picks up the spark gets stasis level of slowness and an incredible amount of damage resistance. The goal then becomes to protect the payload and march it to the other team's rift. First to 2 wins. What about some more party-like modes? Taken, infected from Call of Duty and Halo, but with a Destiny spin. 6 survivors, 1 Taken. The Taken is forced to only use a Hive sword that can one-shot. When a survivor is eliminated, they switch to the Taken's team. Last survivor standing wins. I would love a 1v1 mode that counts for competitive points. I can't even begin to properly articulate how popular a 1v1 mode like this would be for the more competitively minded players. It's absurd that something like this doesn't already exist, being how easy it would be to set up. Take that at a slightly different route. What if we had a 3v1 mode where the one player had mayhem levels of cooldown? What about a gun game? What about a mode where all players have a random elemental buff that changes every 30 seconds? One moment, everyone's invisible, the next, everyone has radiance, call it wildcard. What about large-scale PvP on patrol zones? Destiny 1 had combined arms, which was PvP on big Halo-like maps. Can we bring that back? Number 2 for ideas for Bungie to keep experimenting with, special ammo. The current system is fine, but still maintains a shotgun-dominated meta. I liked the meter system, not a lot of people did, so here's another idea to try. What if every player started with 8 kills worth of ammo, and that was all they got for the whole game? This way, you're rewarded for using it sparingly, so you have advantage in the late game, and it allows snipers and other longer range specials to have the same access as shotguns. If someone likes to crutch special, then you only need to deal with them for so long before they're out for the rest of the entire match. Apply not swap to special weapons, penalizing players for dumping ammo, then switching back for a major setback to their supers and ability energy. Number 3, let's address ability spam. Hot take, the frequency of abilities is not the problem, it's that they do far too much. No one cares if someone is spamming the arc subclasses one-shotting flux grenades because they're so difficult to use and at most will reward 1 kill after some delay. On the flip side, smoke bombs, swarm grenades, threaded specters, and other frequently used options are chosen because of how much they do. We have already separated the sandbox. Stop slowing down the cooldowns for everyone rather than addressing the problems specifically where they are a problem. Rather than nerfing cooldown, nerf the effects in PvP. Make using an ability a skill check, not a skill shortcut. I want abilities to feel strong too. But I also want to feel like I earned the kills I'm getting and not that I'm getting a practically free kill on a 90-second cooldown. Heck, if this doesn't work, then tie ability regeneration to kills similarly to how the special ammo system currently works. Getting kills with weapons will grant you ability energy. This means you have to be actively participating in order to enjoy your easy button. Number 4, stop penalizing the more skilled players. The airborne effectiveness is a targeted nerf to players who have taken the time to master your game. Get rid of it. Reward players for winning in sweaty lobbies as well, something we've already touched on. Remove the penalty from landing from too high up. We can survive getting punched in the face by a creature the size of a Ford F-150 supersized, but we can't land from a height that regular humans can survive without losing our ability to aim. Players are disincentivized to improve because of systems like these, and it's taken its toll on everyone. You may hate Crucible, but it doesn't have to be that way. If Bungie is willing to take big steps on updating and modernizing the Crucible experiences and rewarding players for engaging with it, even Crucible's biggest haters might end up giving it a try. It's not too late, Bungie, but it soon may be. My name is Misam. If you enjoyed, remember to subscribe for your chance at that gift card. Bless your faces and deuces.